Well, I'm here, and before I begin my points about the Santa Cruz branch line, I'm going to wait for a couple more people just to kind of get in so everyone kind of gets the full story. So, I'm going to wait for some people to stroll in, but in the meantime, hello everybody. And if you have not seen the community tab post that I made earlier, I'm doing a full presentation about the Santa Cruz branch line. And it's been a very divisive issue in our county, and I wanted to shed light on it because I feel very strongly about this issue. So I'm going to wait for a few more people to just kind of get in, and then I'll start my presentation, and if Angel here will get in, or if he will unmute his mic.
I'm here.
Oh, there we are. Okay. Hey, Angel.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
So, I'm gonna wait for a few more people to kind of get in here before I start, but essentially, yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's. All right, so we got some people in here. I think I'll start my presentation right now. All right, so thanks everyone so far for being here, but essentially I'm going to be doing a whole Google Slides about the Santa Cruz branch line and how everyone here can support Roaring Camp Railroads. Hold on a minute. Okay. I'll start the present. All right, so right now I'm going to start the presentation. So thanks for everyone for being here. So I'm going to start. I'm going to pull this up. Here we are. You there, Angel?
Yeah, I can see
All
it.
right. All right, perfect. So so today I'm going to be talking about the Santa Cruz branch line and how it's a tragedy of rail preservation because nowadays it's so focused on like today's modern railroad preservation industry would save so much of this track today. So let's first start. So talking about how exactly we got here to this point. It started back in 2010 when the Union Pacific Railroad abandoned the Santa Cruz branch line in December. And what happened was that after the Davenport Cement Works, hold on a minute. All right. Hello, we got a new speaker here. Hey, So Fast.
Hey, dude.
All right. So, after the Union Pacific abandoned the Santa Cruz branch line in December 2010 after the closure of the cement works, The county decided to purchase the rail line from Union Pacific for around $14 million, and now it's in danger of being torn up. Now, if any of you guys have any questions about the live stream, just feel free to ask in the comments. I will accept any questions. All right, so I have also constructed a timeline about this. So in December, Union Pacific abandoned the line, and in October in 2012, the county purchased it. And after 2 operators went through, there was a washout in February 2017 that cut off Santa Cruz and Watsonville, which was the main freight industry. And Roaring Camp then took over, my local tourist railroad. Roaring Camp took over freight services in May 2021. And then that December, Santa Cruz Greenway, our local bike advocacy group, turned in 16,000 signatures to abandon and tear up the Santa Cruz branch line. And the deadline for those signatures to be authorized is January 31st, 2022. So before I get into this point, something I want to mention is that a lot of the rail and trail arguments have been made about a commuter train, but in my research, a commuter train will not produce the ridership. And this is the Coast Futura, and it ran on the Santa Cruz branch line for a while in October. That's my picture. I took pictures of the train. But the cost for a fully fledged commuter service is $1.3 billion, and based on my calculations of information available from the county, there will be less than 20 passengers in 1 hour. And even though I've spoken to a lot of people that said they would have loved to take a train up to Davenport or to Watsonville or Capitola, it's simply too expensive. So a lot of my local bike organization advocates do that kind of stuff. They made a lot of their points about this. So I just wanted to clear the air on that first. So let's talk about the trail organizations here. Before I get into that, I wanted to ask Angel and Daylight, do you guys have any bike advocates where you guys are, or any rail preservation lines?
Let's see here. Well, we do bike once in a while. Well, I haven't seen anyone bike around my area.
Don't you have a tourist railroad near Colton, California?
I don't think so. No.
Hmm.
Only
All
the
right.
line, only the Redlands railroad line I did tell you about. Remember?
Yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah.
So, my local bike advocate organizations are Greenway and Trail Now. They both want to build a trail and replace the train tracks at any means necessary, no matter how high the costs are. According to my research, building a new trail will cost around $60 million to build a new trail that spans the entire length of their line. However, if they supported a trail and were willing to compromise, they would have kept the rails, build the cheaper trail next to the train tracks, and everyone gets a win-win. But if I'm not sure if everyone here remembers, but I wrote a letter to the editor to my local newspaper, the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and I wrote a letter to the editor expressing my concern for the line. And I said, hey, why don't we just turn it into a tourist line or just have Roaring Camp operate it? But Trail Now supporters have personally attacked me on a little Facebook post that they made, and these were the messages. Luke, the writer of the editorial, is a 14-year-old train enthusiast. Kudos for the Sentinel for becoming Santa Cruz Teen News. He also has a YouTube channel with 4 times the subscribers of any train groups, but the most that came of him was reposting a gruesome 30-year-old video of a child being hit by a train. Yeah, and then Greg said, I get that the original piece posted in the editorial section of the Sentinel, but it feels borderline irresponsible of the paper to print this given the lack of accuracy of the comments. I didn't know at the time of reading this that it was written by a 14-year-old. But now that makes a lot of sense now. I will give Luke his due, however. He did get to plug in his YouTube channel for it. Perhaps that was the point. So essentially what they're saying is that I was an attention seeker. Kind of hurts. So to clear the air on that, I want to make a couple things clear. I never posted a video of a child being hit by a train. I made a video about Mary T. Washtilla, but she was 41. I didn't even show the impact. I'm 16 and a sophomore. I'm not 14 and in middle school. There are several railroad preservation groups that have more than my subscriber count. My most popular video is my 4449 Pride of America documentary, not my Mary T. Washtilla video. There we go. And all my points in my letter to the editor were factual, and these people are claiming that no, they're not. But now let's get into why the Santa Cruz branch line should be preserved. So one of Greenway's arguments is that, hello to Gabby. Anyway, so getting into this, it has been shown in many parts of the country that you can have a rail and a trail. According to an NTSB report about rail trails, there have been no fatalities with people using trails with rails. Countless regional railroads and rail trails share paths, and it works out. The public gets their trail, and the railroad gets to keep the tracks or breathes new life into them. To you guys in the stream right now, how many tourist railroads can you guys name that have a rail trail?
I don't actually know. But I was actually about to say earlier, though, with no offense, though, why do some people think that locomotives are like girls, actually? No offense. Just asking.
Why are locomotives what?
Girls, actually, no offense. And second of all, why would there actually be diesels in the first place? And last but not least, why would engines be scrapped?
Well, they claim, Greenway and all these bike organizations are trying to claim that it's a noise complaint, it's an environmental concern, and a lot of that. And there actually was supposed to be a steam locomotive operating in Santa Cruz all the way back in 1989, but that plan fell through. Santa Cruz was actually supposed to be connected to San Francisco in the 1980s.
My freaking siblings, though, like, freaking got scrapped in the 1950s. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole mess.
What the fuck?
I hear swearing.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's a video.
So anyway, though, the Western Maryland Scenic in Cumberland, Maryland, along their tourist section, they have a rail trail that goes right along the line, and it's one of the most popular rail trails in the state of Maryland right now. And these pictures I've taken of the Santa Cruz branch line, but along here in certain areas, there is more than enough space for a pathway to be built to fit for bicyclists. However, once you get to some other areas, it's not really that possible to build a trail in certain areas, but I will get to that in a moment. So one of their other arguments is the traffic issue, and that is Greenway assumes that train traffic will block the road. I have talked to Roaring Camp's general manager. I talked to him during the Coast Futura testing, and he said that if Roaring Camp were to pick up the lumber contract and run freight services down to Watsonville to interchange with Union Pacific, they will have probably 3 trains a week running. So assuming that there are freight services and it runs 3 days a week with 1 train full of lumber, then that is at least 1 train in both directions at a level crossing between Santa Cruz and Watsonville, which is not that much of a traffic issue. Greenway, however, assuming that there are 8,000 people a day using the trail, it produces a lot more traffic than a freight train will ever. But now on to safety. And one of their main points in their arguments is that a train is unsafe and it can injure people. However, it is much safer to travel along a trail with rails than on an unguarded road. And on our current line, there's already a fence that separates the rail from the trail. And as stated before, there have been no accidents with rail and trail users. The only fatality was from a non-trail user, and that was when a woman in Alaska tried to jump on a freight train along a rail trail. But rail trails are a lot safer. However, I'm not advocating for them to rip up the tracks. I'm advocating to keep both. And I've talked to a lot of people about this issue, but nobody's against a trail being constructed. What divides people is ripping up the tracks or not. So on to the fourth issue, which is environmental impact. So one freight car load full of lumber, or any freight for that matter, is equal to 3 semi-truck loads. Right now, there's a shortage of truck drivers in the United States, according to the NTSB. And for an average Class 1 freight locomotive, they emit 22 grams of CO2 per ton mile, compared to truck operations, which emit 65 grams per ton mile. Since every gallon of gasoline burned creates about 8,885 grams of carbon dioxide, that means that more than 40,000 grams of carbon dioxide are put into the atmosphere when cars and trucks are stuck in traffic. Regional railroads don't have traffic problems and they carry more, which emits carbon dioxide. So, one of my bike organization's other arguments is railbanking. They argue that railbanking is a win-win for everyone. The track stays for future reactivation. However, if any lines are reactivated for any reason, the cost to restore and repair the tracks, in addition to ripping up the dirt and pavement, outweighs the economic benefit. An example of this is that out of all the rail-banked lines in the United States, there have only been 8 that have been reactivated for service. And one of those is the Cole-Brookdale Railroad in Maryland. Now, I guess we need to talk about the operators now, because both organizations, TrailNow and Greenway, claim that all the previous operators opted out because the line was unprofitable. So let's examine all of the previous and current operators. So first up is Sierra Northern, which was the Sierra Railway, but they're now kind of a holding company. Anyway, though, so the Sierra Railroad, after Union Pacific abandoned the branch line, Sierra Northern came into the picture in 2010 when Union Pacific leased the line. However, the problem is that Sierra Northern was only there to transport the movable machinery out of Davenport after the closure of the cement plant. This meant that the line was less profitable, but not unprofitable. UP also promised common carrier privileges to a more active line in West Sacramento that is now the Sacramento River Train. Have any of you guys visited the Sacramento River Train before?
No, I haven't.
I have been there once, and that was I was probably like 8, and I remember afterwards going to the jelly bean factory because it was not too far by. Anyway, though, the UP did not grant that license, and in due time, the railroad, or Sierra Northern, pulled out of its common carrier duties in Santa Cruz in December 2011. And a short while after that, we come to our next operator, IOU Pacific, or Iowa Pacific. After the county purchased the line and Sierra Northern left in 2012, the county was looking for another operator. In May 2012, Iowa Pacific was the next operator for the line. It's important to mention that Iowa Pacific tried to have a freight customer north of Watsonville, but was unable to find one. The railroad also ran the train to Christmastown to Wilder Ranch, north of Santa Cruz along the coast, and Watsonville, and they also ran freight trains in Watsonville that made profit. They had about 3 customers at that point. However, in late 2016, the county then sued Iowa Pacific for leaving Union Pacific freight cars on the line in 2016 and also not living up to the contract that the county had provided for them. The railroad also ran a Ponzi scheme, and they started to run out of money because of their debt. They withdrew from the contract on December 31st, 2017, and afterward they also went bankrupt in 2019 and went defunct by 2020. So, now we go on to Progressive Rail. The county then approved Progressive Rail to operate the line in 2018, 1 full year after Iowa Pacific ended operations. The railroad brought in many first-time customers to the line. And one of these was actually Martinelli's apple cider, which some of you know. And that brought up the total to 6 in Watsonville alone. The washout north of Watsonville prevented the railroad from traveling any further. And while the line was still profitable at that point, after coronavirus hit, the line lost money because of the lack of shipments, and Progressive Rail announced their plans to terminate their contract with the county. And in May 2021, Roaring Camp came into the picture. So, in May 2021, after Roaring Camp took over, not only has the freight in Watsonville turned a profit, but it also led to Big Creek Lumber, with their plant in Felton, interested to have Roaring Camp ship their lumber from the yard in Felton by rail down south to Watsonville. So if we examine all of the carriers on the line previously, which ones opted out because of unprofitability? Well, in reviewing all of them, only one of them did, and that was Sierra Northern. Iowa Pacific was sued, and they also were running a Ponzi scheme. Progressive Rail was making money on the line before COVID hit, and Roaring Camp, in emails between me and Roaring Camp's CEO, have said that the freight is doing quite well down there. So, after Roaring Camp came into the picture, a lot of interesting developments have happened since then. And this is surprising to a couple of people, but Roaring Camp actually, when the Union Pacific first abandoned the line, Roaring Camp wanted to take over services but was told not to. Just after Union Pacific abandoned the Santa Cruz branch line, Roaring Camp professed interest in running the freight services. However, Georgina Clark, the wife of the original founder and owner of Roaring Camp at that time, was told by the Regional Transportation Commission to not purchase the line. The county insisted to her that they would take good care of it using state funds. The RTC would later purchase the corridor in 2012. Not too long ago, Melanie Clark, the new CEO since 2012, I believe, in an email to Lookout Santa Cruz, said that she was especially peeved because before the Regional Transportation Commission purchased the corridor, her family's company had first right of refusal. The Regional Transportation Commission encouraged Roaring Camp to not purchase the line, so the RTC could use state money instead. Along with that, one of California's state senator, not government senator like United States senator, but one of our own state senators has jumped in to defend the railroad. Although the railroad has had thousands of supporters sending letters, John Lyard, a Democratic California state senator, has come out to defend the railroad. He stated in an email to Lookout Santa Cruz, quote, "It's hard to imagine that every effort wouldn't be made to help and preserve an iconic local business that brings thousands of visitors to Santa Cruz County each year. The Roaring Camp Railway is a strong part of our local economy and our history." In addition, with the growing fire dangers in our county, San Lorenzo Fire, one of the towns or valleys in our area, has also come out to defend the railroad. In addition, with the state senator, San Lorenzo Valley fire leaders have urged our Regional Transportation Commission to not force the abandonment of the Felton branch line and the Santa Cruz branch line. In a letter to the RTC, the reason is that if another wildfire happens on the line, a fire train would be instrumental to containing and stopping the wildfire. In addition, it would also be great to rebuild communities along the way. But that's where things started to get a little muddled. At the beginning of the Santa Cruz branch line controversy, there was a lot of misinformation about it. So, this is in regards to the Santa Cruz branch line abandonment and then the county trying to force Roaring Camp to abandon their beach train. But essentially, if the county were to apply to the Surface Transportation Board to abandon the Santa Cruz branch line, they would have to force Roaring Camp to abandon their line as well. This is because the Felton line's only other connection is to Santa Cruz. Thus, it would cut off from receiving any freight, forcing the abandonment. RTC Executive Director Guy Preston said that the federal government does not like this and would be unlikely to approve a move without both lines foreclosed to freight. If the Santa Cruz branch was abandoned but not the Felton line, This would force Roaring Camp to stop at Depot Park that does not have adequate facilities as a station. The RTC, however, said that it does not want to hurt Roaring Camp and they want to find a solution to the debate. They have also said that they want to keep the boardwalk, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, as a stop agreement. But that brings to Roaring Camp's freight business. After being denied by the county to run the Santa Cruz branch, the railroad continuously served Felton and Santa Cruz with the Redwood Steam Train ride, and the Beach Train. In March of 2021, the RTC was notified by the railroad that they were considering running freight trains between Watsonville and Felton. Recently, they have told the RTC that they want to run freight services along the northern end of the Santa Cruz branch line from Felton to Watsonville, in addition with Santa Cruz and Davenport. However, since the county owns the line, they would have to repair all the bridges in order to allow Roaring Camp's freight trains. However, if the Santa Cruz branch line were to be turned into a bike trail, those bridges would be allowed to stand because of the weight of cyclists versus the weight of freight trains. So while currently the bridges along the line are not up to rail standards, for pedestrian standards, they are up to standard. So now we're talking about winter storm damages because that's another thing that's happened. The county is required to make certain repairs to the line, but years of bad storms have put the RTC behind on those repairs, which are now to cost $50 to $65 million, an amount that exceeds the money allocated for the track improvements in a 2016 transportation sales tax measure. In addition, after Progressive Rail tried to terminate the freight agreement, which the company said was getting too costly, this left the county in a pickle on whose side to choose. While Progressive Rail is still in the contract, Roaring Camp, the subcontractor, is providing freight service right now. So right now, the line it's in limbo, but with Roaring Camp providing the freight service, it's still making a profit down south. So, with all that, let's now talk about the conclusion of how to fix the rail line. There have been so many abandoned rail lines that have now been turned into tourist operations, and the people that live near them love them. The list includes the Oregon Coast Scenic, Mount Rainier Scenic, Cass Scenic, Railtown 1897, Niles Canyon, Nevada Northern, North Shore Scenic, Conway Scenic, Strasburg, Western Maryland Scenic, Grand Canyon Railway, Yosemite Mountain, Sugar Pine are all countless examples of abandoned waste dumps that were transformed into some of the most popular tourist railroads in the nation. We can have bikers separated on the road and on the trail while also keeping this important piece of history. The Western Maryland Scenic is an example, as they have a trail right along the line. As for Roaring Camp, hold on. So Brian Rock Railfan said Mount Rainier is not open right now. Yes, I do know that the railroad is not open right now. However, I forget the organization that owns Mount Rainier, but they have said that they want to sell it. But before it shut down from COVID, it was a very popular tourist railroad in Washington. Anyway, though, as for Roaring Camp, an expansion of the Santa Cruz branch line, or an expansion to allow them further access to the line, will allow freight trains or tourist trains to Davenport and take shipments from Big Creek Lumber from Felton to Watsonville. Counting the freight trains down south and an expansion of tourist trains from Santa Cruz to Davenport, it will keep the whole rail line active. It will also provide the county with tax dollars from higher profit margins, as Roaring Camp is a for-profit and not a non-profit business. As stated in the opening, commuter rail is nearly impossible, but a freight and tourist expansion is great for business and is great for the taxpayers. My solution to this problem is to increase biker safety by having dedicated biker lanes with safety posts on the roads and having a bike lane that travels along part of the historic rail line. It has been shown in many tourist railroads around the country that you can have bikes and trains interact safely and efficiently. We should be following the rest of the country's lead, which is rails and bikes are the future. And I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you so much for listening. And here are all the sources that I used for this presentation. Thank you all so much. But after all that, Angel, what do you think about this whole situation where a rail line that has been active for so long is now in danger of being torn up?
Well, let's see here. They did have some like issues in the past, but they had a good lot. They're having a good time right now. Well, at least as of right now.
Yeah. What I'd say is that it honestly is hurt. It's honestly just so crazy on how people are so divided on this issue, because I made that letter to the editor just as like I was just writing a letter to the editor, and then you had people coming out and attacking me for it, which was honestly a little sad, to be honest. But um, apart from that, I have also emailed the railroad CEO to get more involved, and I've also called several of the commissioners in charge of the regional transportation to get more active in this. So yeah, but I'm not entirely optimistic for the future of this line because Santa Cruz is so full of bike advocates. But we'll have to see from the deadline for the signatures. But I think for right now, I'm going to end the live stream. And I want to thank everyone so much for attending and seeing this. And I hope that I have changed your opinion, and hopefully you guys can support Roaring Camp and prevent them from being abandoned and having only the steam train ride. Now, if you want to support the railroad, I will leave a link in the comments right now. They have set up part of their website. They've set up part of their website to include a Save the Beach Train campaign, which has all of the available contact information of all the commissioners and all that. But again, thank you everyone for attending this live stream, and I will see all of you guys later. I promise I'll make more videos, but for right now, thank you everyone for watching, and I will see everyone here later.